Welcome back to Horror Through the Decades. We took a year off and now we're back at it. We're going to start with 1980's The Fog. This, of course, was directed by John Carpenter, also written by John Carpenter with his partner Debra Hill. It starred Adrienne Barbeau as a Stevie Wayne. You know her from Escape from New York, Swamp Thing, Cannibal Women of the Avocado Jungle of Death, Oswald's mom on the Drew Carey Show, and she also has gone on to do a lot of voiceover work. She does a lot of cartoon voices. It's got Jamie Lee Curtis as Elizabeth. I'm not going to go over her catalog. I mean, who doesn't know who Jamie Lee Curtis is? I mean, if at this point, go back and listen to our Halloween episode. But, I mean, seriously, like, if you don't know Jamie Lee Curtis, just turn it off, go home, just stop watching media altogether because you're just lost. Janet Leigh, also Jamie Lee Curtis's mom, but the original Psycho, the original Manchurian Candidate, and Touch of Evil. We got John Houseman, who I think most people probably know more from being the narrator-ish person in Scrooged, but he was in The Paper Chase, Julius Caesar, and The 3 Days of Condor. Hal Holbrook as Father Malone. He did Abraham Lincoln, a lot of different projects, which is kind of weird, but he was also on a TV show called Evening Shade and a movie called All the President's Men. Tom Atkins, Nick Castle, which is kind of fun because Nick Castle is the name that I'm failing to remember. I know it was associated with the first Halloween movie, but Nick Castle was... I'm not Nick Castle. Nick Castle was the stuntman from the first Halloween movie. Tom Atkins was in Halloween 3. Jamie Lee Curtis was in Halloween 1 and 2, and then in a whole bunch of other Halloween movies. So you have the stars of the first 3 Halloween movies, and they weren't in it together, but they're in this one together. Maniac Cop, Lethal Weapon, and My Bloody Valentine. So this was a kind of a bloodless horror movie. John Carpenter was trying to get a PG because PG-13 didn't exist at the time. He failed, and it still got an R. Like most John Carpenter movies, he composed the theme. The was done on a $1.1 million budget, but they spent $3 million in advertising. Why they went ahead and put a bunch of fog machines in movie theaters, select movie theaters around to kind of set the theme for the movie called The Fog. It made 21.3 at the box office, but is now pretty much widely considered to be a cult classic. It's got a 45 on Rotten Tomatoes, a 6.8 on IMDb, and a 55 on Metacritic, because as we know, Metacritic hates movies. So The Fog is a great old-school horror movie. It's very atmospheric. John Carpenter shows why he's the master of that profession. It plays on your fear of what is in the fog. The film tells the story of a small Northern California town as it's taken over by what is inside the glowing, impending terror. Adrienne Barbeau is our sort of guide, as she's the local town DJ, so she's seeing the fog come in. The local DJ is also in the lighthouse for some reason. Never really explain why, but that it is. I guess it's just to make the movie make sense. The town is celebrating its 100th anniversary, and they don't want to give up that celebration, so they're ignoring the warnings. Father Malone, who is the Hal Holbrook character, lays out a story about a leper colony that wanted to set up near the town 100 years ago, and the town was not... they didn't want a leper colony near them, so they kind of made the lighthouse not work right, so the leper colony crashed, and they all died, and then the people who were in the town went out and stole all the gold from the lepers, because the lepers had a bunch of gold for some reason. And so 100 years later, the lepers, as creatures of the fog, decide to come back and start killing everybody. They want their revenge on what happened. The movie does a really good... It's one of those old school horror movies where you don't really get to see what's in the fog. It kind of just... kind of like Alien was. You don't... you're not overwhelmed with what it is right away. You kind of have to use your own imagination and your own fear to like build what creature is in there. Um, that's very light on blood and gore, as I said. But it's trading more on scaring you with your own imagination and the really tense moments on the screen. So if you aren't so jaded by the new school horror movies where everything is shown to you in the first 5 minutes and it's all blood and gore, I think you'd really love this one. So I'm gonna give this 4 out of 5 crashed leopard ships.